Diddy, now what the hell is you looking for? Can a young man get money anymore? Let my pants sag down to the floor. Really do it matter as long as I score? Can't my car look better than yours? Can I have a bad bitch without no flaws? Come to see me without no drawers? In a stretch Lex with about 10 doors? I was murder. P. Diddy named me pretty. Did it for the money, now can you get with me? People who say, who is he? He gets busy. Sprays so much Izzy. Girls get dizzy. Niggas on the block know Mase motto. One thing about Harlem World, we all got dough. 98 Tahoe. Tommy and Roscoe. In case I ever get chased by Donnie Brasco. Right? That shit. I'm sorry. I'm not going to tolerate no Mase slander. Fuck out of here. Let me play this beat right now so that you guys get familiar. I'm not tolerating no damn Mase slander from internet geeks. You kidding me? Get the fuck out of here. So, the reason why I was even rapping this verse a little bit was somebody in the comment section had mentioned that, whether it be Fantano, I don't know if it's true or not, but apparently someone on the internet was talking greasy or talking sideways about Mase not being a great rapper or a great artist and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, what? Again, who are these people making these opinions? And do they know what they're talking about? Or are they just, speaking to speak and get views, right? Because Mase was that dude, man, in my opinion. Yeah. And, I see it's not just that particular incident, but I have, obviously, I'm on these internet streets and I see what people are talking about. And I've seen people downplay Mase all the time. And it's weird to me because I'm like, you're downplaying a guy who's way better than most of the, the people that you listen to. Like, who basically a lot of your favorite rappers have, patterned their shit afterwards. So, again, it's a classic example of hating on something that is actually brilliant, right? And is the sort of the standard, right? Because, you're uncomfortable with genius, right? So let's talk about this for a second, right? Mase. So, Harlem World and Mase in general is actually kind of close to my heart because it was the first rap album that I ever bought, like with my own money. Prior to Mase, like I said, I used to listen to basically my parents' music. So whatever my parents, like black kids can relate to this, especially anyways, I would say all kids really of a certain era. You listen to your parents, music growing up. It wasn't like you listen to kids' music. Now they make I would say straight up kids' music. But before it was like whatever your parents played was kind of your musical diet. So I grew up on James Brown and Fela and Michael Jackson, Bon Jovi, because that's what my father loved, right? And my mom was into R&B and New Jack Swing, so she played Mary J. Blige and that's even more recent. But she was playing Tina Turner and R&B, right? That kind of stuff. So, typical, I would say, black family shit, right? And of course, Igbo music. I'm Igbo, so we were listening to High Life, that kind of stuff. The point is that my dad would buy rap music here and there, so I remember hearing MC Hammer and Fresh Prince and Snoop, and those were the pop-oriented rappers to a certain degree, right? They're the ones that were doing really well, and my dad would buy mixes or tapes with them. So I listened to those records as a kid, but it wasn't like I was deep into hip-hop like that. Again, I was young. By the time I started to get, middle school era was when, of course, I started to really express an interest in, listening to rap. And I remember my boy had just come back from New York, and this was in Saudi. He had just, moved from New York, I think, to Saudi. And he had this Harlem World tape, and he was playing it, and I was just like, yo, what is this shit? And he was like, yo, this is the new thing, man. This shit is hot. It's burning up in New York kind of thing. So I went and I bought my own copy from one of the small record stores that was around my area that barely carried rap. But again, because Mase was a big artist in the, rap community at the time, they at least had that. They had the Mase tape. I had it on tape. So I buy the Mase tape and I'm listening to it and I'm spazzing because I loved it. I instantly loved, there were certain songs just right away I was really feeling. The flow I was feeling, I loved the way the dude rapped. I thought it was really interesting and unique. Take What's Yours, instantly. I remember hearing that shit the first time and just being yo, this is the hardest shit I've ever heard, right? And DMX was on the hook and I was who is this guy? This guy is crazy, and then that would, be the DMX that we all, know and love, right? So Mase is kind of close to my heart in that regard. I think Harlem World is very unfairly slept on. I think there's some phenomenal songs on there. Yeah, it's kind of a little pop to a certain degree. It's not like, you know, Cuban Links or Illmatic, but not everything has to be Illmatic and Cuban Links. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think that overall, as an album, it's a pretty strong album. And, like I said, laid the blueprint for a lot of people to start following, whether it be Kanye West or Fabulous or even Drake. These guys have stolen bars, flows, ideas. People have jacked Mase. Let's keep it a whole way 100, all right? So, that was my experience listening to Mase at the time. I remember actually, another funny thing is, so my father was like, oh, you bought this tape, like Mase or whatever, like let's play it in the car. Because we used to drive from places to places and, you know, visit, like whatever, we go to a sand dune or some shit like that, right? So we're sitting in the car and we're playing the Mase tape, which wasn't a great idea. So we're playing the Mase tape and I think the song I Need to Be or some shit came on. And my parents were just like, what the hell? For those of you guys who have heard I Need to Be, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, you're just like, I was like, oh shit. That's the most X-rated shit I'd ever heard, like on record type of thing. Yeah, man, it's stuff like that that made me go, yeah, hip-hop is for me, man. This is my thing. Because hip-hop was just saying things that people didn't want to talk about, right? And it was doing it in a way that was cool and fly and funky. That's my point. It wasn't just like saying crazy shit. It was saying crazy shit, but it was doing it in a way that was charismatic and interesting and memorable, right? And, you know, speaking of memorable, man, that Looking at Me verse that I just spit, you know, I fludged a little couple of words, but the point is, I haven't heard Looking at Me, the song. I haven't heard that song in a little while, at least. And it's not something I listen to every single day like that. But what I'm trying to tell you is that that shit is fucking memorable, man. That shit was memorable to me back in 97. You know what I'm saying? And it hits me. And I'm not talking about like the choruses and shit like that. I'm talking about the damn verses. You're a lyricist if your verses are memorable. It's not about the chorus. I'm telling you, like, a lot of times people be saying, like, so-and-so is a lyricist, and they can't quote anything that person has ever said. That person is probably not a lyricist. Or they're probably a very mediocre one. You know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, if you're not spitting shit that people remember, you know what I'm saying? How you said it and what you said, you're not saying nothing, man. Let's keep it a buck. People talk about, oh, you know, K-Dot Minaj, oh, Control was such a huge diss record, blah, blah. Do you remember a single line off Control? Do you even remember how Control starts? If you didn't, you know, if you didn't have to hear Control right now and someone was like, spit the first opening lines, go. Would you be able to know what the fuck Kendrick ever, you know, even said? Probably not, right? That's how you know somebody that's a mediocre lyricist or a whack rapper or is not even a lyricist, right? People get that title now, like, they just give it to them, you know, you're a lyricist. And it's like, nah, nothing you say is memorable. So that's the thing with Mase, man. The best tracks on Harlem World, what I recommend, obviously Take What's Yours, which is what I'm playing right now. I think that shit is crazy. Full-blown classic. Take What's Yours, Looking at Me, Feel So Good, Wanna Hurt Mase, Niggas Wanna Act. Those 5, I would say, are the strongest songs on the album, in my opinion. Of course, 24 Hours to Live was a big record at the time. I loved it at the time. I still love the song. So that too. And I probably would round it off around there, right? Yeah, strong album. I'm not sure if I would call it a full-blown hip-hop classic. It's debatable. It's debatable, you know, but is it a great album? Absolutely. 1000%. It's a great album. The last thing I kind of wanted to talk about was, I guess, listening to this at the time especially, it kind of really, you know, gave me an interest in New York City, right? I hadn't been to New York City at the time, but the power of this rap music, man, is that you might not realize it, but it really does connect a lot of people, and especially black folk across the world. You know, like you'd be listening to something in 97 and someone else and, you know, some other black person in another part of the world is listening to the same record and they're sort of gaining the same charisma and like experience and shit. That shit is kind of powerful, man. You know what I mean? Like, I liked Harlem before I ever even went to Harlem, right? And actually, if I go back to New York City, Harlem, I probably would try to live in Harlem, honestly. I really like Harlem a lot. Harlem is like... I like the brownstones, and I just like the vibe in Harlem. You know, like I would always try to hang out in Harlem. The problem is, of course, being in Brooklyn. Brooklyn is far, and you know, Harlem and BK, from what I understand, have always had like a kindred spirit. I think you just hop the A train, and you know, you can kind of go to Harlem and back and that kind of thing. So I liked Harlem a lot, man. It's a nice little vibe. It's expensive though, from what I hear. It's not the easiest place to necessarily live if you're not making some, you know, decent coin. But anyway, the point is, listening to these rap records, it just makes you feel something. You know what I'm saying? It makes you love the people from that community, and it makes you kind of, you know, it's like a little window into their life and how they think and how they feel about certain shit, right? And that's why I don't take this hip hop shit lightly, man. I remember one time I was hanging out in New York. I was in Brooklyn, and I was hanging out with this one brother who's from South Central LA, right? And we were bugging out over how in 99, G-Dep had the song called Child of the Ghetto. I think it was like 99, 2000. And we were bugging out about how we used to really like G-Dep. But the thing is, G-Dep had the song where he was like, in 81, I was caught with a gun or something. In 82, you know, then I was, you know, blah, blah. And he just listing, you know, in 88, I was doing this. And in 89, I was caught with a 9. Like, it's like the third verse of Child of the Ghetto, right? And we were spazzing about how I heard that shit in 99 in Saudi Arabia. Like camels and deserts and shit. And I was bugging out going like, yo, this nigga spin. And he heard that shit in 99 in South Central LA being like, yo, this nigga spin. And being like, yo, listen, like, I can relate to what this dude is saying. I'm in the hood in South Central. And the shit that this guy's talking about, like, I mean, you know, either I lived it or my friends lived it, you know what I'm saying? And like, I'm all the way, you know, on the other side of the world being like, yo, like I can understand like how this person's spin and what they're saying and shit like that. This stuff is powerful, man. Let's not get it twisted. That's why this rap shit, like, I'll always respect rap as an art form because it really is an extraordinarily powerful art form, and I don't like when I see people try to devalue it or downplay it. Like, and especially it's always these new nerds and these new like culture vultures that try to make, you know, rap like a he joke or whatever. Like, get the fuck out of here, man. This shit has saved lives. It's also unfortunately taken lives, but it's some real shit. Right? And if you're not if you're not with it, then just say you're not with it instead of trying to like remake the culture into something where it's like, oh, it's just a joke, it's just, you know, goofy music of the moment. Nah, man. Yeah, for some people have that perspective, and that's fine. You can have your perspective, but don't try to necessarily, I would say, change the culture, right? And don't try to like, again, exert your culture vulture, tendencies on the culture. Unfortunately, that's what happens a lot, but that's what we try to run away from, right? So, for those of y'all who've never heard Mase, I would say give Harlem World a listen, absolutely, front to back. And I'm sure you'll like at least a couple of those songs. Double Up at the time, I remember listening to Double Up and I kind of fell asleep. I don't remember a single fucking joint off Double Up, to be honest with you. I mean, the song Double Up was cool. It was alright. I think Blackstreet was on it. All I Ever Wanted, I think, was on that CD too. I remember liking that song, but it's kind of lower tier. You know, I wouldn't recommend that as like Mase listening, you know? And that's kind of it, man. I think Mase, for his short time in the game, obviously he had the remixes and stuff that he was doing with Puff. He made a big impact at the time, and you really felt it, man. Like, I give, Mase his props, like, for real, because that short window when he was hot, he was really hot, man. He was one of them guys. And again, that's why I can't really... I can't fall for these Jedi mind tricks when people now say that so-and-so rapper is the biggest thing in the game and blah, blah. Because I'm like, no. I've lived through hip-hop long enough to know when someone is really that dude. I mean, think about what I've experienced. You know what I'm saying? Like, I experienced, to a certain degree, I didn't experience Big, but I experienced Big right after he passed, because that's when I really started to listen to rap. I heard when Pac passed, right? Again, I wasn't, like, experiencing Pac right before he died. I witnessed, I would say, the rise of Nas and Jay, right? I remember when 50 came out. I remember when Wanksta first came out. I remember how that shit set New York on fire because I was in New York at the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember grown-ass men fucking running home to try to see if they can catch 50 Cent on fucking, 106 in Park or some shit. You know what I'm saying? And this is before In the Club and all that shit dropped. I remember when In the Club dropped. So trust me, I know when someone is that dude, I know. It's very obvious. But when you gotta freaking write articles and, you know, blog posts and all these like fake media praise to tell me that someone is that dude, it's probably not. Probably not true. So, long story short, man, Mase was that guy for his time. If you guys have any recommendations for other Mase tracks outside of the ones I mentioned, please let me know, because Mase doesn't have a lot of material, actually, to be honest with you. So, you know, it's just kind of the nature of the game, you know? It is what it is, man. But those little songs he had, Wanna Hurt Mase, I love that record. Those little songs he had, even Jealous Guy used to crack me the fuck up. Like, they're dope, man. You know, Mase had some shit. And you know what's interesting? Like, if I was to compare, because this is the thing about Mase and Cam, right? Side note. But I would always take Mase over Cam. I think that, you know, I've said this for years, but I think Mase is a stronger rapper. I mean, Cam came out in Mase's shadow, right? Like, Cam, you know, basically came out with the Mase co-sign to a certain degree. So I can't really ever be like Cam, like, outdid Mase, because that's just not true. Like, Cam has some joints, no doubt, right? And Cam did, you know, eventually get his own thing with Dipset and all that stuff. And I respect that, but he's not better than Mase, man. Bar for bar, Mase is a better rapper. I think he even has better flow than Cam, and just says wittier shit than Cam. Real talk, right? But Cam's nice too. Cam's cool. You know, Cam got some joints. Peace.